What's up, everybody? This is Facts on the Ground. I'm Jesse Zerwell. I am going solo tonight as my co-host Misty Winston is going live with her newest show called Bitch, which I highly recommend. She gets on there and vents with her unique wit about all sorts of things. So definitely check that out. And beyond that, I'm really excited to talk tonight to two activists and organizers who are behind the March for Medicare for All that's coming up. I'm here with Shareef Snuggs and Ricky Dunlop, and we're going to talk about that march and the impetus or impetuses behind it, and whatever other relevant topics might come up. So, Shareef and Ricky, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. So, can one of you, or maybe both of you, from your respective perspectives, tell me or tell our viewers what the March for M4A is all about?
Yeah. So the march is really a demand for Medicare for all immediately. Um, we all remember how forced to vote, didn't pan out, and so a lot of us, we just you basically we got our knees scraped, so we're picking ourselves up back up. I mean, we're doing it again. So we want to make sure that we have that same energy what Force to Vote had with this march. So this is why we're marching. We want to let everybody know that healthcare is a human right. We should have it already, and we're trying to build solidarity with other organizations. Right now, we just partnered with Whole Washington. So right now we're looking to do that. We're looking to build more coalitions with other groups and other organizations to really demand Medicare for all immediately.
Sorry, I didn't catch whom you just partnered with.
Oh, I apologize. Whole Washington. So they're right now they're trying to get ballot initiative in the state of Washington State
Okay.
for single payer, and so we're collaborating with them, and we're looking to do more of that. Right now we have three marches, not just in DC, but we also have one in Seattle now. Now we also have one in Los Angeles, and so that's what the march is about. The march is we're moving away from demanding a floor vote to saying we want Medicare for all enacted immediately.
Yeah, and I think that's where we need to be right now.
Right.
The floor vote from the beginning to me seemed like when you hear about negotiations to negotiate with
Right.
regard to Israeli occupation of Palestine, for example, it's basically another way to kick the can down the road, but make it seem like you're doing something. So I'm curious for both of you, when did this really become something that you wanted to focus on and fight for, this basic human right, which I want to say Medicare for all, catchy name, but it should be healthcare for all, which is a lot more truthful and I think a lot more memorable when you have Medicare and Medicaid to bounce between. So yeah, for both of you, I'm interested, and I think our viewers would be interested to know what catalyzed you, so to speak, to do this.
Well, if we didn't know that the healthcare system in America was horrible before last year, we certainly do now, right? It's been a really rough year for a lot of people, and I just kind of got tired of watching people suffer. Basically, they basically get punished for being poor and sick in America. And I got tired of that. And then there was some energy around Force the Vote that brought a lot of new people into the sort of the Medicare for all activist space. And we thought that, maybe we had a fighting chance if we brought a lot of attention to that speakership vote. Maybe we could shake things up a little bit, at least, bring the conversation back. Obviously, Bernie Sanders made Medicare for all a little more popular when he ran in 2016. Obviously, that was a dead dream by the time 2020 kind of came around. But Force the Vote kind of reignited that whole conversation. And that was really disappointing what we saw we learned that, these progressives, they're really excited about Medicare for all when it gets them votes, and they're not going to fight for it once they get the job, right? So the only way that we're going to get Medicare for all, which is something that people need, I mean, just look around in America, it's really bad.
Right.
We're not going to get that unless we demand that. And
Right.
we have to do it all over the country. We have to do it together, or we will just keep kicking that can down the road. I mean, we've been talking about Medicare for all, which, yes, should be healthcare for all. We've been talking about that for decades. We've been talking about single payer since the 40s.
Right.
Or some
Right.
kind of universal healthcare. Maybe not single payer, but like universal healthcare has been talked about since the 40s in America. So like 70 something years, 80 years maybe.
Right.
So it's time. It's getting ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is 100% time. In regards to like me getting involved was COVID. I really feel like if COVID didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be, me and Ricky probably would never have met. A lot of the people that I'm working with right now would never have met. I was definitely one of those people that, sat home and, just watched your show and watched other, a lot of left-leaning shows, got all my content, got all my resources and information from you guys. And when the pandemic happened, I was like, okay, so now is the time. We're going to get Medicare for all, right? And then Bernie Sanders says, now is not the time. And I was like, man, Bernie, why? You're fucking up right now. And I said, okay, well, maybe there's a play here. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe you're going to do something down the line. Maybe there's a bargaining chip you're going to add, that we don't know about. And then when Force the Vote happened, and then AOC and the squad, kind of spit on the Americans, spit on our face, basically just said that, we're not going to leverage anything. Too bad for you. So that's what really emboldened me to get out off the couch and like start watching, YouTube and just say, hey, I'm going to get involved. Because before that, I think most of us was just, just waiting to see what was going to happen. I mean, COVID was something that we've never experienced before. So we all kind of felt that, okay, there's something going to be here for us. There's something going to happen. We were all starting to see slowly that we're not going to get anything. And I just feel that if we don't get involved now, we're never going to get it. We're never going to get it. This is why I do feel the movement in a weird way is kind of called so many of us to do this. You know what I mean? I think me and Ricky have gotten so much support online, and we really grew this just from other people just feeling like it's time. I don't think that I don't think me and Ricky are special. I think the reason why we're being able to do this march is because everyone else feels the exact same thing. Everyone's coming in for solidarity.
Right. And when you say everyone, it's absolutely true. It's not a partisan issue in any way. Health is not a partisan issue. Sickness is not a partisan issue, but it's made to be that way. And I understand from a capitalist perspective, an economic perspective, and also a political power access perspective, why the can is being kicked down the road with Medicare for all. But you'd think somebody would finally stand up in Congress at this point and say enough is enough and really stick to it, not the way Bernie Sanders did, or not the way AOC so tepidly has. So I'm wondering, well, before I get to that question, let's talk about the march and when it's going down and the breadth and depth of it, if you will.
Well, that's exciting. Ricky, you want to share some of those details, because it's been exciting. I'm still blown away too, myself.
Yeah. So Shareef and I decided we were going to do a march in Washington, D.C. after the Force the Vote, protest didn't really go anywhere back in January. So we're like, all right, this summer, we'll plan this out. We'll do it this summer. We'll have several months to figure things out. And it'll be one march, it'll be something. We'll get ourselves out there, get our feet wet, and then maybe build from there. Well, little did we know, people were just ready to jump on board. And we started planning this DC march, and we brought some people into the space to start organizing with us. And our team keeps growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden, someone's like, we want to do an LA march out here. And we were like, okay, I guess so. So that happened. And then, we started partnering with the Red Berets in whole Washington, out in Washington State. And they're like, we have to do something here because, we're getting closer to single payer in our state. So, California is closer to single payer now, and even New York State. So we have people in these states, they know that they're closer in the battle than many of these other states are. So they're really excited to get involved. So now we have 3 major marches and rallies across the country, but also we're gonna create these sort of templates to get other people involved locally if they're not able to make some of these bigger events, so they can do things locally. And that's something we're working on right now. And we're gonna encourage people to help us get the word out online. And that's all going down Saturday, July 24th. At least the marches in LA and Washington, D.C. Seattle just joined this past week, and they're making sure that that date doesn't conflict with anything out there. But hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be going down on Saturday, July 24th.
Right. Nice. Very nice. I think it's really important that you've been able to not just organize the DC march, but that sort of in an intra nationalist way, like within the country, there are other groups in major metropolitan areas that have not only come together, but they want to come together with you, and not necessarily a centralized way. I think you're still decentralized, but there's a level of camaraderie and solidarity and organization there. And I think that's a good thing. It's cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. Power in numbers. So
right.
I think the more people you can get on board with that, or we can get on board because I'm on board with you, the better. So people hear the call for Medicare for all, and for a lot of people, I think it's pretty vague, and they don't quite get all the details of it, or they've been led to believe by whatever hyperbole they've experienced, that Medicare for all is socialist, or it's communist, or it's some kind of leftist scourge to be done away with. Can either or both of you sort of detail what you're calling for when you speak about Medicare for all?
Free at the point of service. You already paid for it already. Your tax dollar already pays for healthcare, full stop. So there's like no reason why there's no reason why we shouldn't even have it already. 70% of more than 70% of Americans want it. Your tax dollars already pays for it already. You're paying double for healthcare anyway, because you already have health insurance. Your taxes pays for it, so you're paying twice for the same service you already have already. So that's a mafia. That's a scam. Mm-hmm. So when you live in we live in this world where I think most people don't understand that the rest of developed countries already have a single payer system already. And then when you tell people this, their head scratch. It was like, that's not possible. It's possible. It's real. It happens. They do have it. And so I think more Americans, I don't know what it is. Is like, it's either because we're choosing to be ignorant, or we just don't want to know, because the information's out there. I just think that if more people just give themselves, more people just do the research, you'll see that that system does work. And I think people just listen to the talking points they hear on mainstream news, and they just believe that. It was like, it doesn't work there. Like, who says? Where are you getting this information from? You know, and that's the talking points you hear.
Yeah, it's just from a personal point of view, it's very interesting to see the transition with regard to Medicare for all that my parents went through, because before a certain point, they had the standard response to Medicare for all, that it's, like I said before, socialist and or communist, or a handout, or part and parcel of a welfare state. And my parents went on vacation to Italy, and my father, who has a bevy of health problems, his lungs, I believe, started filling up with fluid when they were on vacation there. So he had to go to the hospital emergency wise, like quick. And he said that they were able to do very great work on him and get him back and, up and running. But he didn't have to pay anything. And he said that that's what convinced him, that and the excellent care he got, that yes, this can work. I just went through it. It works. And
Right. And also funny, not to cut you off, people in general, I feel, are that thick-headed, and it takes those kind of experiences. I feel like what your parents went through is, we're all like that, you know. We all have to kind of go through kind of a very similar experience, some more than others, to kind of really lean on that side of like, okay, this makes sense. Because you just sometimes just saying go to a website or you know, point someone to a direction and say, hey, look at this. You need to actually live that experience for people to say, okay, this does work. Some people do need that.
right.
Yeah.
And medication wise, fortunately, he has good insurance right now. It's private insurance, but if he didn't have that, he already pays a lot for his medications, but if he didn't have that, I don't know if he'd be able to afford it. And, you know, that right there is, you know, that's a system of serfdom, of debt peonage. And it's so, I just don't understand that, why a country like the one we live in, which is supposed to have come to terms with all of these social benefits, it's just totally constipated when it comes to this. I mean, you can't even get people who are obviously pretenders, but are supposed to be the most progressive members of certain caucuses, and you know, they just fold when it comes time to put skin in the game. So that brings up to me the squad, or the so-called squad. And I'm wondering if both of you can speak to what you think about them, their trajectory from when they sort of came on the political scene to right now.
I'll let Ricky speak to that one.
especially in the context of Medicare for all.
Well, we both live in New York City, so we live in AOC land up here. And I actually got some signatures for AOC when she was running out in Queens. Because I had a friend who was, you know, working for her campaign, and he's like, "You're gonna stop complaining about politics online, and you're gonna help me get signatures for this up and coming congresswoman." And I was like, "All right, I'll check her out." And then I looked at her platform, and I was like, "Oh, abolish ICE, Medicare for all." I was like, "Okay, maybe we have something here, right?" I don't know who she is, you know, I don't know her background really, so I looked her up. She was a nobody. I was like, "Okay, we'll get some signatures. It's definitely better than Crowley on paper, at least." I don't know anything about her because she doesn't have much to go by. So I went out there and helped a little bit. And I was really excited. I was like, wow, she really is picking up traction. She got very popular really quick. She became like an overnight sensation. And she became like this new voice for the progressive left, you know. And it kind of seemed too good to be true. But at first it seemed great. She went in, you know, she stormed into Pelosi's office on, I think, day 2 and was like demanding things. I was like, oh, wait, if this is what we're sending to DC, we have something here. But looking back at that and, you know, kind of in hindsight, it seemed like a performance. It's
right.
A great performance, by the way.
Right.
Fantastic performance. But she has not, like, her trajectory has been sort of down. Since then, right? She's kind of lost that steam. She's lost that fire. She's become this like monologuist on Instagram where she just gives you platitude salads for like hours, and she's really good at it. She's really, really good at it, but she doesn't talk about anything. You know, she's like, this would be justice. This would be justice. This would be justice. She just says the same thing over and over again. People are like, yes, you're so smart. You're so into it. You got it. But she hasn't, like, nothing she's written has really passed. Nothing, a few things here and there, but she's not made a great impact. And when push comes to shove, she's not gonna push the establishment at all. And her rhetoric has even changed since Biden has become president. She had much more fire when Trump was president. As soon as Biden became president, you can literally see a huge shift in her rhetoric.
Absolutely.
Be careful, Ricky. Biden exceeded expectations.
This is violence. I know this is violence.
Yeah. Violence, and Biden exceeded expectations.
Hey,
okay, Biden did a good job.
Put your hands down. That's too much. Yeah, I share your view completely. For me, it was seeing through AOC. It was I think it was in July of 2018, like right after she took Crowley's seat, and she was being interviewed on Firing Line, I believe it's called, on PBS by Margaret Hoover, and she was, prior to her winning her congressional seat, she was very outspoken and in a lot of right ways about Palestinian human rights. And then she was asked in this interview to elaborate on that, and she fumbled and backtracked. And that for me was when I really sort of cut the cord of hope that she had anything good in store. I could see her being an Obama-style disappointment, and I think that's what she's become. But I also understand why and how people didn't see that or couldn't see that immediately, and
Right.
I don't blame them for that. And it's hard for us, especially at this point in American history, to not sometimes, or most of the time, desperately grasp at people as like a messiah of some sort. So just go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jesse. I was going to say, it's funny you said that, because politics now is the new religion. You know, it's this cultish, sycophantic over like Obama, over Trump, over AOC. And when you kind of mix those three together, people are like, oh my God, how dare you say that? And, they're not understanding that it is literally, you're doing the exact same thing. You have this idol worship of this person, and that person does no wrong. No matter what side are you on, if you really can't see the flaws in the person that you are, that you voted for, and you refuse to do that, you're idol worshiping. You're worshiping this person. They're putting them on a higher pedestal, and so that's what it's come down to. I don't think it's. I'm not taking away none of these politicians what they do, but it's on us too. Like, we're also participating in this kind of a cultish mindset. We're feeding into this ideology of the fact that we need to put them up there, and we need to stop doing that. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And especially in probably the year leading up to the 2020 elections, I would tweet often about the cult of personalities I thought I saw with regard to Bernie Sanders, AOC, both of whom, Bernie was running for, I don't like calling him Bernie because I'm not a fan. Sanders was running for, or Bernie Sanders was running for president, and AOC was up for re-election. But yeah, it's like you said, you could see the trajectory of their support for Medicare for all and for other progressive ideas really just plummet. And I expected it, and I wasn't surprised. I mean, it's disappointing because it's always disappointing to see somebody lose their backbone, I suppose. And that's what they did. But given that there's been so much of this kicking the can down the road by Congress, now we're talking about incrementalism and expanded healthcare, which to me is, you have more private companies you can buy your healthcare from.
Right.
I'm wondering, in that kind of environment where we've just seen nothing done at all for so long, and I'm not trying to negate what you're doing with the march, but do you think it's possible to actually change these people's minds? Yeah,
it's funny you said that too, because I was literally gonna move into that next, in the sense that that's why I feel like, someone like me who was sitting on the couch, just watching these YouTube shows, getting involved, that's what's really going to take. It's going to take someone like me, who was like more or less apolitical, who wasn't really, going to a lot of protests, going to a lot of rallies. Sure, I've done it, but I wasn't, someone like Ricky, for example. Ricky's really invested his time and energy into going to these marches, going to rallies. I'm someone who's now doing that a lot. I've gone in the past, but you're really going to need people like me who's not in this battle, because we are in a war. We just have to just call it what it is. It is. We're in a war. People are dying. So last time I checked, that if people are dying, you're in a fight. And so it's going to take a lot of people like me to get out in the street and just really give a shit. You know what I mean? And just really, put their money where their mouth is. You really believe that every American should have healthcare, then, you don't necessarily have to come to our march, but there are 1,000 other ways that we can get involved. And the fact that we are getting involved, and like you said earlier, powers in numbers. The more we have the numbers, the more eyeballs that really want to push for this, we're going to get it. I really feel that the only reason why politicians like AOC and Nancy Pelosi can do what they're doing is because no one's going to check them. Mm-hmm. No one's not going to not vote for AOC. No one's not going to not vote for Nancy Pelosi. There's no pressure. They're not scared. Nancy Pelosi's not scared of losing her position. AOC's not scared of losing her position. None of these politicians are afraid of losing position. The moment where we threaten them to say, listen, we're tired of this, and you're going to lose your seat. And keep in mind, that's not there yet. We're not there yet. But if we get to a point where we are there, I guarantee we'll get Medicare for all. I'm 1,000% sure that the moment that the American people say, we're not going to take this anymore, I guarantee we'll get it. And that's the problem. No politicians are afraid of us yet. That's the problem.
Yeah. And it seems like that's because you become a politician and you get subsumed by this system that's just so much bigger than you, so much more than you can imagine. And you start to get the benefits of being in power and having access to power. And a lot of people can't resist that temptation. And that's why we see politicians like AOC willing to just completely pulverize themselves as so-called progressives, just to toe the party line, and then put out these like very transparent, like you said, these like one-line platitudes all day, every day, to make it seem like she's doing anything. And if you actually go and look at her voting record on votesmart.org, I believe it is, you can see the types of bills she's been sponsoring. One of the recent ones was to condemn QAnon as a conspiracy group, something like that. This is what she's putting her time into, when she could be putting her time into getting us all free healthcare. And it's atrocious. And I don't think that there should be any respect given to her because she's a young female politician who's made some pretty unsubstantial noise, albeit noise, in government. So I just got this indication that this meeting for some reason is going to end in about 6.5 minutes.
I see that too.
Are you all okay with switching over to Skype? I don't know why it's doing that. It's never done that before.
I don't have Skype. Do you have Google Meet?
Yeah, I can do that.
Ricky, do you have Google Meet?
I suppose I could just type it into a browser, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a Gmail address, I think.
Or create another Zoom link. But yeah, I have a Gmail address.
I'll try to create another Zoom link first. I don't know why it's doing that, but we have about 6 minutes before it goes to hell, I guess. But
usually the host can extend it, I thought.
Right, I thought so too. That's weird. It's doing that.
It is weird.
It's telling me. It says upgrade. See, Gates people
wants your money. Gates wants your money.
This is why Zoom is
money. Zoom, and you guys heard about Zoom making $1 billion. Obviously, it's $1 billion industry. They didn't pay any taxes.
Of course not.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. No taxes.
Yeah, well, that's like Amazon. They They don't
Right.
pay taxes. They actually get money back from the government.
Right.
Government gives them money to set up shop in different cities. like literally they get paid to set up shop. Like it's ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's like the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
This is La La Land. It's just
I know we do live in a cartoon at this point.
right.
It's like laughable at this point.
Right.
It was always messed up, but this is insane.
Right. Oh man.
So, I'm just looking at the Zoom info here. I'm not ignoring y'all.
No,
but,
it's all good.
As I do that, I wanted to ask both of you too, with regard to the squad. We hear the squad, but in most people's minds, that equals AOC. We don't hear about much about Ilhan Omar, for example, or Rashida Tlaib, for example. And can either of you speak to where they stand with regard to Medicare for All? What if they've done anything? If they've been more I mean, not that AOC's even been persistent, but have they been more aggressive in pushing for it, or have they just kind of towed the same line that she has?
The reason why everyone thinks that AOC is the when people think of squad the squad, I think AOC because she's basically the leader. She's the that's why.
She's the face of the squad. She's like the Steven Tyler of the
Yeah.
well, if we're talking about rock bands or something like that. But like no, they're all the same, to be honest.
Right.
They all have their moments. They all get their one time to shine. It's almost like this is like a script that's being written. It's like, okay, Ilhan, now it's your time to say this thing. Okay, Ayanna, who is like a moderate really, but somehow she's part of the squad. It's now your turn to say this thing. And it's like, okay, what's happening? It just seems fake at this point.
Right.
As far as Medicare for All goes, no, they're not fighting for it. Some of them don't even use the term Medicare for All in tweets anymore. After Biden became president, I think
access.
AOC's just started saying access to healthcare, access to healthcare, access to healthcare. I think she said it once now, maybe in a tweet. Same thing with like Ilhan and Rashida. Maybe they've said it once or twice here and there. They're not fighting for it. I mean, Pramila Jayapal wrote the House bill, and like whole Washington, out in Washington State, they're having a hard time getting her interested in the local single payer fight.
Right.
She's only interested in her bill, introducing her bill, and doing her little Zoom calls about the Medicare for All bill in the House, and she's completely absent from the fight in her own state.
Yeah, and it also seems like they'll put forth these bills or sponsor certain bills, but they really don't risk anything. It's like they're going through the motions and they know it's going to be turned down, but at least they can say to their constituencies, we tried.
Right.
And
that's what someone actually did to me actually too. They said we actually have 2 House bills already. I don't know if you're aware of that. Someone actually told that to me, like, because me and Ricky was protesting in front of AOC's office, and we planned this march. So a lot of people will talk down to me and look at me like, I'm not well read, because they'll say, oh, we have 2 House bills already. Someone's working on that. It's already being handled. So you can basically go home now. You can stop like trying to do this.
Yeah. And
so you have when you actually have like regular like apolitical people running for cover for the squad, they don't have to do anything anymore. You got people defending them.
Right. Yeah, I think the squad is essentially the next generation of Pelosi neoliberals. You can see they're being almost beyond trained and groomed at this point. Well, we're still recording and it says less than a minute, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I was curious about that with regard to the squad, because really the only character we hear about is AOC, and she's come to sort of represent well, well, now the failure to achieve Medicare for all, and also this nebulous, I would say, stupid venture called the Green New Deal, which has nothing. I don't think what it's aiming for is stupid.